session, today we will be talking about what is watershed, management of watershed with a special reference to India. Now, to start with, let's understand what is the meaning of word watershed. It's made up of two words, as you can see, water and shed. So wherever water sheds in, like soil, so I can say land, soil, water bodies. What is happening here is the water that is coming into is being deposited or being collected in some area, and finally it is having a common outlet, and such a kind of region is known as watershed. Now, in the previous class we have already talked about stream orders, where we discussed what is the fluvial landforms. So when we talk about stream orders, we can understand the formation of watershed. So I have two streams, say of first order, which are combining to form a second order stream. Now if I am asked to demarcate the watershed, I can say for the first order stream, this can be the watershed region. For another first order stream, this can be the watershed region. But if I am asked to demarcate the watershed region for the second order stream, I can say this can be the watershed region for this stream. So, as we can see, there are various sizes of watersheds that can be formed. We can classify the watersheds as micro, macro, submacro, micro and mini. A macro watershed is usually considered in an area of more than 50,000 hectares as compared to mini, which is in an area of less than 100 hectares. So this is a kind of broad classification to help us understand how watersheds can be classified and what are the areas in which watershed can be demarcated. Now, for any watershed program, or when we talk about management, I could say, we'll first understand why there is a need for management or why there is a need for watershed management. India is a country which is primarily rain-fed, or I could say dependent on monsoon. When a country is highly dependent on monsoon, what happens is everything, including the crop production and the livelihood of a village, is dependent on monsoon. So when I say the things are highly dependent on monsoon, that means I could say the country is primarily rain-fed, or it is the predominant source is rain. In the areas which are highly rain-fed, there are incidences of poverty, fluctuations in growth, or fluctuations in agricultural productivity, I could say. So you cannot say in which year the agricultural productivity would be high, which year the productivity would be low. When there is poverty, there is less income, less employment. So it's a kind of vicious cycle which operates in an area which is primarily rain-fed. So when there would be poverty, there would be incidences of malnutrition, food insecurity. So all of these things come up together. In order to curb these problems, there was a need to manage the watershed regions in a proper way, because if and if only the watershed regions are managed in a proper way, all these problems can be fought off. So watershed management, the basic steps I could say included 4 basic steps for watershed management, but to understand it broadly, I could say it's not just a hydrological unit that needs to be studied, but along with it, it's a kind of socio, politico and ecological unit that needs to be considered. And when I say management of watershed, I try to emphasize that I am trying to use the resources in such a way that I am trying to maximize the use of land and water resources, but at the same time I am trying to minimize the impact on human resources and the natural surroundings. So my aim would be to here to maximize output from land and water resource, but at the same time to minimize the hazards or impacts on either the natural surroundings or the human resources. So that is the aim for watershed management. With this aim, most of the watershed management programs were launched, and most of the programs were included under 4 phases. The first is recognition, that is recognizing an area whether there is a requirement for watershed development or watershed management. Then is restoration. I am trying to restore that area. Finally, once restored, there is a need to protect that area. So protection phase, and finally is the implementation. So once the protection is done, I need to implement it further and further. So these 4 are the common phases under any watershed management program that has been launched. Now when I say about components of watershed management, I try to emphasize, if I am trying to develop a watershed or the area that is rain fed, what would be my main aim? My main aims would be, first of all, I would try to intensify the production. So the first aim, major aim, would be crop intensification. The next major aim would be not only to intensify just the crops, but also to diversify as much possible crops as that which can be grown in that region. The next is conservation of land. Now conservation of land can be of 2 types, in situ and ex situ. When I say in situ, it's within the region. So building up of bunds, furrows would be an example of in situ conservation. Whereas if I talk about ex situ conservation, I would talk about check dams, I would talk about farm ponds. The main aim would be to decrease the peak discharge and increase the groundwater. So decrease the discharge and increase the groundwater would be my main aim. The next would be integration of pest and nutrients. So pest and nutrient management to provide the best of all pest and nutrient management in order to suppress any kind of infestation that can be caused in the region. So these are some of the things. Along with this, another important thing is, since I am saying this is a rain-fed area, I need to move people from farming to non-farming practices, because just farming cannot suffice for the 12 months period. So there should be non-farming practices. The non-farming practices can include animal husbandry, development of pastures, and so on. And the last important thing, or the important component of watershed management, would be capacity building. So ultimately what I need to do is to build up the capacity of the region for future challenges to be handled by that region. So these are the major components of watershed management. The next is, what are the objectives or the main aim of watershed management? When I say main aim, it's obvious that I need to control the problems of erosion, I need to provide good water supply, I need to protect the soil and the land resources, provide good quality of water, control any floods or surplus runoff, need to restore the lands which are degraded or the lands which fall under the category of wastelands. So these are some of the major objectives of watershed management. Now, how can we approach the problem of watershed management? To approach the problem of watershed management, there can be 2 basic ideas. So I can say it can be divided into 2 basic ideas. First is the integrated approach and the consortium approach. Integrated approach talks about integration of technology, with the natural resources. A best example here would be a case study that we would be covering later, that is the case study of Kothapalli. The next is the consortium approach, where we would be talking about community participation. Under community participation, I could say involvement of stakeholders, involvement of government, involvement of non-governmental organizations, and a kind of people's revolution or people's participation movement. A good example would be village Sukhomanjari in Panchkula, that we would be again discussing later towards the end, where we would be talking about the case studies. For now, we are focusing on the two basic approach. First is the integrated approach that applies technology to natural resources, and second is the consortium approach that talks about community participation. Under integrated approach, I would say whatever the components that we have talked about, that's conservation of land, mix of farming and non-farming practices, capacity building model, so those would all be covered under integrated approach. While under consortium approach, our main focus is involvement of people or people's participation towards the development of the watershed or development of that region. So these are the two basic approaches that we usually deal with when we talk about watershed management. Now, how did the watershed development programs started in India and developed through? So we'll start with, I say 1990s, that was the first time, 1970s, that was the first time when there was an idea or a need for conserving the watersheds or managing these regions that need arose in 1970s. There were numerous programs that were launched under different names at that time. During 1980s, there started a kind of structural approach, and this structural approach I could say was a kind of top-down approach, which was compartmentalized or segregated into various sections. So this was a structural approach which followed the ideas that were laid down in 70s, and under this structural approach various programs came in. It was a kind of top-down approach where the authority had a idea in their mind, and that was kind of replicated to the lower units, the states and the panchayats. So that was the model that worked around 1980s. But somehow people felt that this model is not the real model they are looking for. So in 1990s, their idea shifted from a structural compartmentalized approach to a holistic approach or a holistic development of the region with the main focus on water conservation. Here the main focus was soil and land conservation, and this focus shifted in 90s to simply water conservation. Then around 1995, it was C.H. Hanumantrao's committee that provided recommendations, and under that recommendations the approach wanted to move off from the existing structural and kind of structural and top-down approach to a kind of community-based approach, or I could say a participatory model. So under this participatory model, around 1995, the main aim was to increase the production and increase the standard of living. While in around 2005 to 2010, there was a kind of further revolution that came up, which was based on the similar participatory model with aim of holistic development, but the focus shifted to increasing the rural output and increasing the rural income of the household. So you can see how there was a shift in the ideas from a kind of a structural approach to a holistic approach, from an approach that was driven by government to an approach that was driven by people. Again, from soil conservation to water conservation with aims to increase productivity and standard of living, and finally to increase the rural household income of a region was the main aim. So this was how the idea of watershed development started in India. Now there were various projects that were launched to understand the watershed programs in India. So these are the three basic programs along with the development of Watershed Development Fund. This fund was started with the help of NABARD. There was an assistance of kind of rupees 100 crore from three things, that's Ministry of Agriculture, Government of India and NABARD. National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development. So this fund was a kind of unified fund which provided assistance to the numerous watershed programs that are running in India. So that was around 2000 that this development took place. Now these three were the major programs that worked out. The first major program was Integrated Watershed Management Program. IWMP was a kind of merger of drought prone area development program, desert development program, and finally the wasteland development program. Okay, so drought prone area, the desert area and the wasteland area, these three programs were united under to form the Integrated Watershed Management Program. This program was launched for a period of around 4 to 7 years. The assistance was 90:10, that's 90% by center, 10% by state. Most of the programs were similar except for northeast regions where 100% assistance was granted by the center. The main aim was integration of watershed. So watershed management, so it tried to focus on the areas which were prone to droughts, which are prone to deserts, or which were demarcated as wastelands. How were the areas selected? There were few classifications to help select the area. First was any area which was around 500 hectares was selected. The next was if 2 or more villages are involved, there would be division of 2 sub-watersheds in the region. The areas which had higher population or large population dealing with kind of unprivileged section of the society would be given higher preference. The areas of high poverty or low income, I could say, were given priority. So these were some of the basic criteria based on which the areas were identified in which areas this program should be initiated. The next was National Watershed Development Program for rain-fed areas. It was again a program similar to IWMP, and the main aim here was to develop the areas which are mainly highly dependent on rain-fed monsoon as compared to integrated watershed management, which dealt with areas which were kind of involved with droughts and which were wastelands. The next was watershed development programs, projects in shifting cultivation areas. These mainly dealt with the regions where shifting cultivation is practiced, mainly in the regions of northeast. So the ultimate objectives or the major contribution of these programs was to increase the groundwater recharge, to increase the number of wells or water bodies, trying to change the cropping methods and cropping technologies, and provide higher yield for the resources. But there were various issues in the implementation, or I could say in the success of these programs. First was the failure to implement. These programs were not implemented wholeheartedly. Then lack of participation, or I could say encouragement by stakeholders. So stakeholders were not wholeheartedly involved into the program. As a result, it could not penetrate to the local villages or the local level Then there was problems or issues of sustainability, whether this program or this method could be sustained for a longer period or not. And finally, the component of watershed management talked about capacity building, but there was lack of capacity building under these projects that were released. So these were some of the major issues, I could say, that did not lead to 100% success of the projects that were launched. However, there were various local efforts that were I could say started in various parts of the country. So what we would be there are various projects, but what we would be discussing here is two major places and two major persons. So the first major place is Kothapalli, as I mentioned previously, which is an example of integrated approach. This region is a region of Andhra Pradesh which has been drained by Musi river, which is a kind of tributary of Krishna. This region was a region of high poverty, high incidences of low income and lack of employment. What happened was an integrated approach was applied where technology was brought in and there were kind of developments that were brought in. As a result, there was kind of remarkable change where you could see the groundwater recharge level increased from 7 to 32%. So the recharge of groundwater increased from 7 to 32%. There was increase in about 50% of the income levels of the people. Crop yield increased by around 2 to 5 times. Then there was decrease in the runoff or overflow from 39% to around 5 or 7%. So these are some of the landmarks that were achieved in Kothapalli village, which is a kind of village based on Musi river, or is a watershed formed by Musi. And these were some of the substantial improvements that were brought about in Kothapalli. Now the next region that we would be talking about is Sukhomanjri. Sukhomanjri is a region in the Panchkula district of Haryana. I could say around 30 to 35 kilometers northeast of Chandigarh. Sukhomanjri is an example of participatory development. So consortium approach, as we mentioned previously. Under this village, there were 4 tanks that were built up under the instruction of P.R. Mishra. And these 4 tanks kind of the main aim was to control the problem of erosion, the siltation problem in the Sukna lake. This project was later on handed over to Hills Management and Restoration Society. The main aim was to prevent the overgrazing in the hills, check the dams, and then there was kind of to direct the extra or the surplus water was the main aim under Sukhomanjri. So it was a kind of village initiative or the villagers initiative that was brought about, and this brought about kind of revolutionary changes in the regions of Sukhomanjri. The next two, so these were the two places that we have discussed. The next two that we would be discussing are the two major contributors towards development of watershed management. First is Rajendra Singh and the second is Anna Hazare. You might be surprised that Anna Hazare, most of you might have heard him with reference to Lokpal, but the contribution of Anna Hazare has been kind of indisputable in the field of watershed management. He has also been called as one of the Jal Yodhas of India. Rajendra Singh is also known as the Waterman of India. He was awarded the Raman Magsaysay Award for his contribution and development to the region. He established an institution which was known as Tarun Bharat Sangh and worked in the regions of Alwar, which was kind of considered as dark zone or a region devoid water. His projects or his ideas included two main things. First was the building of johars and the second was the building of check dams. Johars are kind of small bunks that were built on ground to store water. So they were kind of water storage units built from anything starting dirt or stone or concrete. Then there was check dams. This was built to prevent this was built along the streams. This was not similar to the conventional dams that stop the water, but rather they kind of make a pool which allows overflow, and that increased or replenished, I could say, the groundwater. It has been considered that he has built more than 450 johars in this region, and this region, which was considered as dark zone, is now considered as one of the basic regions. The next is Anna Hazare. Anna Hazare is known as one of the Jal Yodhas of India. Then his main work is Ralegan Siddhi, the village located in Ahmednagar in Maharashtra. This village was a kind of center for poverty and liquor trade. As a result, the situation in this village was very worse. What Anna Hazare did was, he initially settled in that village and tried to build up percolation tanks. His initial efforts went in vain because the percolation tank leaked out, but he called out local people or the villagers to again help strengthen and build that tank. So finally there was a kind of success. He also asked the people, rather than cropping or planting water intensive crops like sugarcane, you must focus on cropping patterns which include less water, like pulses or oil seeds. There was a kind of complete ban on grazing and felling of trees in this region. And this region, which was again a kind of very poor region, flourished remarkably. So these are some of the case studies that we have discussed under watershed management. We would be covering more topics related to geography of India in further videos. You can subscribe to ExamRace channel for any further updates. Have a good day.